Welcome. We are in Sport Performance Secrets. I'm very happy today because we have a special person with us. It's Dr. Steve G. Jones. He will talk about the mind and about all the benefits you can have with the control of your own emotions. We are Sport Performance Secrets. We're committed to the excellence and the exploration of new alternatives in sports. This is your host, Coach Al Kelbrin. I coach gymnastics for more than 40 years. I have since the beginners to elite gymnasts, and I coach gymnasts to the Olympics in 2 different Olympic Games and 5 World Championships. I'm so excited because I learned hypnosis at the age of 16 from one guy from the Tibet who called Beck, and he teach me how to control my ADD and how to control my weight. I was born obese and with a lot of healthy problems, and he helped me to overcome all that problems. At the age of 48, with the power of my mind, I beat the cancer, and I helping now other people to do exactly the same. Listen more to the power of their mind. Today is a special day, but before we start, I need to explain you something, how to use the best of this interview. And number one, I want you to go to your browser address bar and put the interview page for Dr. Steve G. Jones. He's a clinical hypnotherapist, and when you put this, you will see several things you can do with that page. You just type this one: www.sportperformancesecrets.com/hypnosis. HYPNOSIS. And you see the picture of Dr. Steve G. Jones, you are in the right page. This is the correct one. And we're so excited to have here Dr. Steve G. Jones. And what you can do with that page. Number one, you will see on the right side the special offer he has for you. It's 15 recordings. You will see all the amazing things we make for you, because this is for sport performance. This is to help you to be the best. Number two, I need to explain you another thing. Dr. Steve G. Jones prepared a gift for you. This gift is free for you to start to use all the benefits of all the work he do over the years. And he will talk about that a little bit later. And like every time in the program, I need to tell you, this quote is like for Mark Spitz. You know Mark Spitz. Mark Spitz is the very good swimmer, 7 gold medals. And he says, you fail to prepare, be prepared to fail, is what he says. And I'm so excited because today we have Dr. Steve G. Jones, is clinical hypnotherapist. He is the master, super trainer, and life coach, and he's expert in many, many, many things. He is a founder of the American Alliance of Hypnotists. He is an American University of NLP. I studied there. I learned a lot from him. Every time Dr. Steve G. Jones has some new program, I jump in that. Because you know you want to change your life, Dr. Steve G. Jones is the person who can help you. And I'm so excited to introduce today Dr. Steve G. Jones. Hi, Dr. Steve. How are you? I'm very happy to have you here.
Hey, great, Coach Al. How are you doing?
Very happy to have you. In these years, I learned a lot of things from you, especially NLP. NLP is one of the first clues for me to use it as a coach. And I want to ask you one question. A lot of people learn in the school many things, but how you, after studying university, have a doctor's degree, and how you start to introduce all these programs to the world? What create that emotions in you to start to help all over the world, not your community?
Well, the internet was great for that. You know, I used to just teach regular classes and seminars, but the internet has been wonderful for that. And I didn't even have a website until about the year 2000. You know, before that, we were selling CDs, and before that, cassette tapes. So about 2000, I realized that I could reach out on a much bigger scale. So I had my office in Beverly Hills. I thought that was great. I was in the Roxbury Medical Building, 90210. I thought I was on the top of the world, but I was really just on the top of my neighborhood, you know, in California, there in Los Angeles. Once the internet became sophisticated enough and had the proper mechanisms built in, that's what really encouraged me to start branching out beyond just the local market or any city I could go to do a seminar.
Oh, amazing. That's really, really good. And I know you, my listeners, are very interested to know everything what happened inside your mind. Because you know the responses you have, sometimes are not the desired responses. But Dr. Steve today will teach you, will tell you how your mind works. And that's why we're going to jump to my first question. Like, we need to understand a little bit about the sabotage, about the power of the concentration, and many things. But my first question to you is that the willpower, we use it all the time, but why the willpower has too little power?
Well, willpower is great, but it's more of a conscious process. It's like an engine you have to keep on feeding, whereas if you're programmed on the subconscious level, it's on autopilot. You don't have to think about it. So willpower is where you have to almost force yourself in every situation. Don't smoke that cigarette. Be okay with public speaking. Stop doing this. Start doing that. You have to consciously force yourself. You have to power through it in each moment, which for some people can work really well, actually. But for the majority of people, it's much better and much preferable and much easier if you have subconscious programming. That way you don't have to use that conscious force and think about it all the time. And if you stop thinking about it, you may revert to the old behavior. But with subconscious programming, such as with hypnosis and with neurolinguistic programming, it's all done for you. It's on autopilot.
Oh, great. Exactly. I have another question. When you are in gymnastics or in any sports, usually you have mental blocks, mental barriers who stop you to do many things. You see champions in TV who are so close to win, and at the last moment they collapse. And this is something to do with the problems they have inside.
Sometimes. That can be multifactorial. I mean, it can be something, a physical situation that they're dealing with. As you know, athletes are prone to injury from time to time, even younger athletes. Accidents happen. Sometimes people have something distracting going on, something that's happening in their family or their love life or their financial life. But in the majority of cases, if we look at it overall, if someone should perform a certain way and they're not, a lot of times they do have a block going on. They don't really feel they're worthy of it. They don't really feel they should have it. They don't really feel that it's going to be great to have all that positive attention once it does happen. So they will find a way subconsciously to sabotage themselves. And they can affect the minute movements of their body through their subconscious mind in order to cause a failure. And that's sort of shocking how someone would undo themselves like that, but it does actually happen.
Yes, you are totally right. In gymnastics, we face another problem, the fear, because you know, we do flips, and I still amazed after 40 years teaching kids how they can do that. We can do 2 flips, 2 twists at the same time and land the feet. And obviously, it's a long process. What we use is repetitions. With repetitions and progressive, we learn more and more. How you can recommend to the athletes to get more into the repetitions? Like they need to learn to concentrate, but what do you recommend for them to learn to concentrate?
Well, to learn to concentrate, they should focus on blocking everything out. And it doesn't have to be during their gymnastic event that they're doing. It can be in everyday life, you know, talking to someone. Sometimes conversations, especially these days, people get sidetracked by so many things going on at one time. What about just looking at the person and focusing on them and having a conversation with them? So that can work. It can be a discipline that they can learn. And as far as repetition paying off, What we find in the world of neurology, now I'm not a medical doctor, but from the world of neurology, we look at those studies, we learn that we as humans learn best by repetition, by seeing something as a continuous flow rather than just chunks. So if we have someone practice something the correct way over and over and over again, it becomes a chunk in their minds. This is something that I do. I do all of these movements and it just becomes one, sort of like learning math. People can learn individual concepts and so forth, but until they work problems, as they call them, over and over and over, they don't learn them as a continuous sequence. But once they do, then that becomes easy from the beginning to the end.
Excellent. Yes, you're right. You touched on one special part, the multitask we have in our society. All the kids has many things to do at the same time, the TV, the tablet, the telephone, the texting. They do everything at the time. And that leads to ADD. You know, it has a lot of problems. We have 40% of the kids in ADD. It's one of the programs I started to create to help them. But the other problem is the discipline. The discipline we know comes from home. And there's a way to help the parents to help the kids to learn discipline. What do you think? The parents need to get some kind of guidance, like a teaching, to learn how to educate the kids?
I think that would be fine. You know, when you get into that territory, you get into a few potential fights. Telling parents how to raise their kids is never the most popular thing. So having an opinion is fine. Imposing that opinion or saying that this opinion's right and this is the way they should do things, that can lead to challenges. My personal feel is that everyone's raised differently. Different families have different ideas, different cultures, different religions have different ideas about how people should be raised. I remember I was raised in a fairly strict way, but I had some friends who it seems like they could do whatever they wanted to. Well, somehow we all turned out okay. We all turned out to be respectable adults. So when you get into that territory, I would offer a few theories, which would be that yes, you can share that discipline with your kids if you want to learn to focus on one thing at a time. But we're also battling against technology. Now, I have no doubt that in a few years we will have machines integrated with us in some way. You know, we have Google Glass already, and they have contacts that you can wear that will now take pictures. So we're starting to integrate with machinery more and more, and with computers more and more. Eventually, it won't be a matter of telling a kid to put their phone down, because their phone will be somehow attached to their bodies, and further down the road, they may actually be built in somehow to their bodies. So we need to understand these things. We need to embrace what's actually happening and perhaps offer some guidance to parents if they want to take it that might help kids stay focused in this ever-changing world.
You're right. And you know, all the families, every family has their own way to educate their kids. We try to help the most we can with new ideas. And there's another thing you start to speak about, that is the words we use. We know in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, this is the most important, the words we use. I notice the athletes, when they start to practice and they make bad things, they judge themselves. They start to punish themselves because probably it's the program they have inside. And what happened with the NLP? The NLP helped them to change those programs they are running?
Oh, absolutely. And it can be very simple when you look at, I worked with a professional pitcher about 15 years ago, a professional baseball pitcher, and one of the things you'll notice that pitchers do is they have a routine before they pitch the ball. They may swipe the pitcher's mound with their foot. They may bring the ball back. There are little things that they do. Sometimes those things are because of some sort of superstition, some sort of obsessive-compulsive routine that they're going through. But in either case, and also the third case, which is they've realized that's an anchor for success, in either of those three cases, superstition, OCD, which can also be a superstition, or anchoring, what we find is if they have a routine that they go through that they think is going to aid in their performance, it actually does. So that's one easy way to use neurolinguistic programming, which neurolinguistic programming can be defined on a very simple basis as causing an association. So if they have an association between doing a ritual and having success, then more power to them. And I worked with a pitcher a few years back to give him a ritual which would mean success, bringing in the idea of having that perfect pitch, meaning going exactly where he wanted it to if he did this certain ritual, which was not an attention-grabbing ritual, because pitchers are on stage, essentially, especially professional pitchers. They've got people on TV watching them and in the stands. So they don't want to do something that makes people laugh or draws unnecessary negative attention, but just something very simple that looks like a normal part of pitching right beforehand can be very powerful.
Excellent. Yes, exactly right. That means some athletes has the wrong rituals, because they start to create an emotion. You know, we need to have the mind focus on something. We need to repeat some words to ourselves, and we need to have a posture. And then if that three things create the emotion, change one of them, and then that will be the words. If you just repeat to yourself different things, you can create a good, good rituals to do the good things. What I do in gymnastics, they need to concentrate first, visualize first the routine. After they do 50 routines in 1 week, the whole performance is used 1.5 minutes, and it's what you see on TV. It's 1.5 minutes, but it's 10,000 hours behind that. And what I do, I start to create in them is a ritual too, to make them get into the zone. When they learn the ritual correctly, they get into the zone fast. What you can describe about the zone, what you describe as a psychologist, the zone for the athletes?
The zone would be getting into that place where they feel like it's going to be okay. And having studied cognitive psychology, there's something called the speed efficiency trade-off. You know, the faster you do something, the less efficient you do something. So you have to find that sweet spot between the two. That's usually for more active sports, interactive sports such as basketball or football. Gymnastics is an individual sport, and baseball, to a large degree, is non-interactive in that there are individual movements being performed by individuals that are not, ideally, they're not colliding with each other usually, except to tag one person. But the being in the zone is where you want the athlete to be, and we can do this through installing an anchor, ideally. You know, as I mentioned, some pitchers and a lot of people in a lot of different situations have a routine they go through before they do something that centers them and focuses them. But to install that, you just have them picture having done it perfect, like you said, having them imagine going through the routine, but doing it perfectly, and then coming up with a word and a movement that anchors that. So maybe they're imagining themselves doing it perfectly, and this would be done before they even get out there, and then they think the word perfection, for example. Maybe they make the OK sign when they think that. Seems like a simple procedure, but it's actually based on Pavlovian research. Ivan Pavlov, the Russian scientist whose parents wanted him to be a priest, by the way, and he decided to be a scientist instead, thank goodness for us. And he realized that you can associate things. You know, you can have a dog smell meat powder and ring a bell at the same time. Eventually you just ring the bell and the dog starts to salivate. Well, it's the same concept when we imagine doing our gymnastics perfectly, and I don't do gymnastics, by the way, but when a gymnast imagines doing their gymnastics perfectly, making the OK sign and saying perfection, well, that's anchored it, just like ringing the bell when smelling meat powder. So then when they are in that situation where they need to have that power, all they have to do is make the OK sign and think or say the word perfection, and they're back. They're anchored to that, and then they can go ahead and proceed with a much better chance of doing it the right way.
Excellent. I think you touched the most important thing, the anchor. We need to explain a little bit more about the anchor, because most of the audience are kids, are young kids who are teenagers, and they don't understand what is anchor. And my experience like a human being is anchored. When you hear music, you remember some memories, like your first kiss, your first something, and this is an anchor. But
Right.
more scientifically speaking, how you can describe anchor?
It's a connection between two things. So, for example, you may have touched a hot stove before and you realize, ooh, that's hot. So now the just maybe the glow of the stove is an anchor for fear, and maybe your blood pressure will actually go up. Maybe you'll start sweating a little bit. Seeing police lights in your rearview mirror. You know, maybe you've been pulled over before for a traffic ticket or something else, and you know that it may not go that well. You may end up having to pay money. So if you see police lights in your rearview mirror, you may start to perspire a little bit. Your blood pressure may go up. You may get nervous. That's an anchor. We can also have positive anchors. As I mentioned, we can imagine doing something perfectly, doing it the right way, and creating that anchor. Touching our fingers together in the OK sign, or doing any other action, and saying the word perfection. It's always better when you have an action and a word, so it just becomes more powerful in that you're involving more senses. And there you're involving kinesthetic sense of movement and touch, and also the auditory sense of hearing and saying the word. So you create an anchor. So those are the positive anchors we want. But anchors are just associations that happen all day, every day, normally. We're just taking more direct control of them with neurolinguistic programming and using them for something beneficial.
Wow. Always it's nice to speak with you, because you have tons of ideas, tons of notes to join with everybody. And at this moment, I want to remember one special moment when I had my first Olympian, and she was going to compete, one of the only girls who was doing that specific vault. That was in '79, and she needed to qualify. And I was so afraid. She was not. She was ready to go and do it. We practice and practice and practice. We have it. But in front of the audience, in front of the judges, in front of the TV, in front of the whole world, it's not the same to perform than in front of your home and your own coach. And when she started to run, I knew she will nail it. I knew it, because I see in her face all the total confidence. It's all easy to imagine, and she can do it. And in NLP, we use a lot of these images or minds. How you can recommend to the athletes to start to find out how they perform better?
Well, I think that in athletics, the main benefit is having a video of the process so you can see it from a different perspective. And working with a coach like yourself, different things can be pointed out. This was done the right way, and this needs a little bit of work. And I think the best thing that they can get is, after they do something the right way, to be told that was the right way. So right after they do it, they still have that feeling, that sense of doing it, and they know that that was the right way. That's what you want more of. So that's positive reinforcement, which is from B.F. Skinner, from the world of behaviorism. We get that from psychology. They're reinforced to do that. But they're also, in the NLP world, they're being able to kind of encode the mental image of having done it, the feeling, the sights, the sounds, everything, as the right way to do it. So they'll be able to repeat it. And by the way, you can anchor something right after you do it. That's the best way to do it. So in other words, if they go ahead and do the routine perfectly, they're told by the coach they did it perfectly, they can go ahead and anchor it. With the anchor, this can be the anchor, and they can say perfection. That way is anchored, so they know not only to have the good feelings, but they actually have the sense of, in this case, mainly the kinesthetic sense of having performed it. So then they can fire it off again by doing this and saying the word perfection before doing it again, so that they can have a repeat of that perfect way of doing things.
Wow. Yes. This is what we need to do with all the coaches who are listening. Start to learn all the process of anchoring, because this is what you do. You can anchor good things or bad things. And now it's time to remind everybody, if you just tune on, Don't worry, we'll have repetition of this interview because this interview is very special for me and for you too, because I know you're an athlete who want to be in control of all the aspects of your training. And here, we try to uncover all the secrets to help you to be one of the best. Not just because you have a special secret, because you have the commitment to be the best. And I recommend you to go to the Dr. Steve G. John homepage. How you can do that? Just type www.sportperformancesecrets.com/hypnosis. Hypnosis is HYPNOSIS. You will see Dr. Steve G. John's picture right there, and you can explore all the special package. Now go to the special package and click right there. I want you to see everything, all the recordings Dr. Steve G. Jones make for you. This special package is to help you to be one of the best in your performance. And you will see certain recordings who help you to have everything. At the same time, Dr. Steve G. Jones has a super gift for you. I still cannot believe it that you can have it just because we know if you take your time to listen this interview is because you are dedicated and you are a very good athlete. That special gift, Dr. Steve G. Jones will explain you a little bit more later. But right now, we need to know everything about the mind, but we need to jump a little bit more. We need to see how you record your programs, what you put into the programs, because I know it's a different recordings everywhere in the market, but the yours are special. What makes the difference between the yours and most of the market?
Well, I'm not familiar with all of the products out there, all the hypnosis recordings out there, but I do know that with mine, I really took the time to do it right. It took about 1.5 years, 2 years to do the recordings. I built a sound studio myself. I hired 2 college graduate sound engineers. They had degrees in sound engineering, had them working full-time during the time that we were making the recordings. They used Pro Tools, which is something they use in movie production. We used a handmade Rhodes mic from Australia, just everything that we could think of to do them the right way. We also had a lot of engineering techniques in there, a lot of binaural tones. We had a lot of different techniques that they incorporated, the sound engineers incorporated to make the recordings very dynamic and very interesting, but also very powerful. We also used a lot of techniques from hypnosis and the world of neuro-linguistic programming in the recordings, and we varied the recordings. So when you listen to a platinum level recording, they're not just the same introduction, the same music, and the same everything with all my recordings. We had one of 5 musical backgrounds, one of 10 inductions, as we call them, where you're first starting out the hypnosis session. And the scripts in the middle part of the 1-hour sessions were all unique for that topic. So we did things the right way. We had the best sound quality, the best people, the best hypnosis and NLP technology, just everything came together. And it did actually take me quite a bit of time and cost me quite a bit of money to produce these. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 went into these. But we got the, I think, the best of the best. And again, I haven't seen what everyone else offers, and I have nothing against what everyone else offers. I think they may be doing fine work also. But I know for a fact that ours are done in an outstanding way.
Amazing. Yes, it's very important to know that all the recordings you can find will help you. This one will help you more because Dr. Steve G. Jones put a lot of things, like he explained the binaurals, all the technology he used is, and you will make experiences that today because he prepared a special gift for you. That special gift is unique. I know all the athletes need to study and need to learn faster, every time faster, because they want more time to get fun or to go to practice. And Dr. Steve G. Jones prepared a gift. That gift is how to read faster. And can you talk a little bit about what they can find in this experience they will have with you, Ed.D?
Sure. The platinum level recording on speed reading, on reading faster, is something that came from my research when I was working on my doctorate in education, which is that you can learn to speed read if you can teach your brain to essentially skim. So you're skimming through material and you're getting the gist of it. Now this comes with practice. You need to practice it. But speed reading programs will teach you that. It's a matter of skimming. Now this is not a technique that you would want to use if you are studying a technical manual. For example, if you're learning, if you're studying medicine, for example, you would want to read every single word, make sure you look at all of the terms. However, it can increase your speed of retention when reading something like that. So the ability to look at something very quickly and retain what's on it is a unique ability, and it can be very helpful. It's something I use myself, and it is teachable. And beyond that, it's programmable. You can program it into your subconscious mind. So it's the idea of being able to memorize facts very quickly without having to go over and over them, and the idea to take in large amounts of information by flipping through pages and using the skimming technique. So that's what's taught to you in the speed reading hypnosis program.
Now, I know, especially because that's recording, we'll have it today as a gift from Dr. Steve G. Jones. We want all these programs to make you, but no manuals, no something for the school, because you need to integrate that knowledge more. When you read a magazine, you need to waste too much time. That's why he prepared this gift for you. And you will experience it today. Later on, I'll tell you how to get that, because you will get it tonight, today. In this, every moment you want to use that recording, you will use it. Call your friends, call everybody to listen to this interview, because this interview is for everybody. It's not just for athletes, it's for everybody. And tell even your mom, your dad, that this is a special day. Now, we have more questions for you, Dr. Steve. And in life, athletes represent, they are the superstars. They sometimes when they go to professional, they make tons of money. And kids want to be that hero. But I think that is not the main motivation for all the athletes. They are recommend to the kids, you recommend to the kids to go to do the sports?
Well, first of all, it should be something that they're really interested in. I mean, if sports is their thing, they're not being pushed into it by an adult, that's going to make a big difference. You know, some kids would probably be better off becoming actors or going into math or medicine or something like that. But if sports are really their thing, that's the number one. You have to make sure that, I mean, talking to a child now, you have to make sure that's what you want to do. You really enjoy it. To a kid, money doesn't really mean much. I mean, I used to get an allowance as a kid, but I didn't have anywhere to go to spend it. So money to a child, unless they have access to the ability to buy things, maybe now on the internet they can buy things, but you know, sometimes money doesn't really make sense to a child. It's not really a motivator anyway, because their basic needs are provided for by their parents or their guardian or whoever's looking over them. It's just the extras they may want to save up money for. So that usually can be taken out of the equation. So it should be something you're passionate about, and passion is something that changes over time also. I mean, what I was passionate about as a kid was chemistry. I wanted to be a chemist. So I was always mixing everything in the house together. I thought it was a great idea. Luckily, nothing blew up. But later on, I had a class in high school on psychology. So psychology became it, and I started learning hypnotherapy. In high school, I started reading a book on hypnosis. I knew that was my passion. So realize the passions change. So the main thing that you want as a kid, I think, is to make sure that whatever you're doing is something that you are into, that your heart is into, at least for now. And that's going to make a huge difference.
Yes, you're right. Every kid has different abilities, and always is a genius of you inside, not just for sports, in any area. You need to explore that. Sports is important because the sport will give you more health, more ability to move your body. In this society, we have a lot of problems to move because we use the car, we use the seat, the computers all day long, the TV, and then moving. And that's why I encourage every kid to practice sports. And I work at kids with ADD. This is my main program right now. I create a program for ADD kids. And I notice one thing, as soon as they start to develop new skills or the emotions, because like you mentioned before, the mind works accumulating that information is to work correctly. And when I use more coordination with them, more exercises, I create a program to put 300 complex coordination exercises, and they come better. They start to control and have more. Now my question to you is, these recordings we have in the package, like we have concentration, we have crabbing with sugar, we have all kind of things. They can read it, but this package will help them to integrate in set, like one at a time, one in the morning, one in the different recommendation, how to approach better.
We've got a lot of recordings there, and if you look at the page, we've got 15 recordings, very powerful recordings designed to help athletes improve themselves to the point of having peak performances. What I recommend doing is taking them and chunking them. You've got 15 recordings, so breaking them up into groups of 3, whatever makes sense to you. If you're looking at things that are in a category, that's always better. So looking at the page, we've got unlimited motivation, concentration and focus, and increasing self-esteem. Those things can kind of be considered a category. The category of moving ahead and getting things done and laying a basic framework for success. So if we take those as a group, we've got those 3 recordings. We realize we've got 15 recordings total. We've got 5 groups of 3. We can put them into groups of 3. You can create these groups yourself, whatever makes sense for you. And then I'd recommend listening to 1 a day in a 3-day cycle. So, for example, recording number 1 on night 1, which would be motivation. Recording number 2, which would be the concentration and focus recording on night number 2. Recording number 3, which would be increased self-esteem on night number 3. And then you just repeat. I would do that for 3 weeks, repeating those 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then you've conquered those 3, you've mastered those 3. Then you move on to the next set of 3 and do it in the same way.
Wow, very long time, and I know that will change your life and your life, your family. Why? Because when you things, the family function better, and it's important for me that explanation you did, because people buy, sometimes they have the control of the TV with like 100 buttons, but they can use only 2. Change the channel and volume, and the brain is the same. The brain has a lot of buttons, but they don't know how to use it. They just use what they get used to, and you touch exactly the right thing. You need to start to get discipline in that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 until you be familiar and very integrated to that information. Now that package is super special because it has 9. Why? Because Dr. Steve G. Jones wants to help athletes to be better and all their families. That's why it's important for me to encourage you, experience that tonight, just with the reading, and experience that, you will know the benefits of everything. Now, I have another question for Dr. Steve G. Jones, and how you can change the mind frequency, because we know the mind works in frequencies, and if we function in beta and we go to alpha when we relax, and the frequency of the mind.
Well, changing the frequency of the mind, I'm not so sure that we would need to do that. And before I get into that, let me also touch on this other idea, which is how to listen to the recordings, which you asked about before. Just play them at night as you go to sleep. And if you fall asleep listening to it, it's fine. So one recording per night, play it as you're ready to go to sleep. I'll lull you into a sleep, and at the end of it, I tell you to drift off to sleep completely. You'll wake up in the morning fine and refreshed. So if you fall asleep listening to it, that's fine. As far as changing frequencies, during hypnosis, we change frequencies. We are normally in beta, which you mentioned, which is full awakening consciousness, where we are wide awake and aware of everything. If we slow down just a little bit, we're in alpha. We can go into alpha without even realizing it. When we watch TV, when we read a book, when we take a shower, when we vacuum, when we drive sometimes, when we do something that doesn't really require our full concentration because it's a rote activity for us. We know how to do it. We're on autopilot. So this is a normal occurrence for us. The interesting thing is that anytime we're below beta, anytime we go into alpha or lower, which would be theta or delta, the sleep states, we are in hypnosis, and we don't even realize it. So when we're reading a book, watching TV, vacuuming, showering, doing those things, we are usually in a hypnotic state, in which case we're very suggestible. So we don't need to, during the day, we don't need to make ourselves go down there, because these are things that fluctuate naturally as we go throughout our day. We go from alpha to beta all the time, all throughout the day. And it's at night we go between the lower states of theta and delta as we sleep. But these are stages that we would go into during hypnosis. So you don't have to consciously learn how to do those unless you're practicing meditation. Let's say if you're practicing meditation, then you want to slow yourself down. Now you may think, well, how do I know when I'm in alpha or theta or delta? If you're slowed down just a little bit, you slow down your concentration on just one thing, you can rest assured that you're in alpha. That can be a very resourceful state if you want to just focus on something like a laser and get things done. A lot of people lack that ability. That's something that's been very beneficial to me, is being able to just focus on one thing until it's done. So getting yourself into that state can be very resourceful. When you're listening to the hypnosis recording, it does it for you. If you're an athlete doing your event, if you just focus on what you're doing, you don't have to worry about anything. You will go into that alpha state where things are free-flowing for you.
Yes, exactly right. It's very important for everybody to know then they don't need to be worried about what frequency they are, because what we need to do is just concentrate on one thing at a time. When we do one thing at a time, we can achieve more results. And this is something we need to create habit to repeat and repeat and repeat. In sports, you have the same schedule over and over and over, and you go to, sometimes you need to compete at a different time, but your brain can adjust that. And I want to hear some specific explanation about what hypnosis is, especially because some parents have the misconception what hypnosis is. They start to think there's manipulation, it's this one, it's that one. You already partially is. What do you recommend to the parents or to the kids to understand and tell the parents what hypnosis is?
Well, it's just a relaxed state of mind. It's nothing to be worried about. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's not voodoo or anything like that. It's something that you go into every day. You're in and out of hypnosis every day. So, for example, with a child, when they wake up in the morning, let's say the alarm goes off, they wake up. They're in beta, wide awake, full awakening consciousness, aware of what's going on. If they slow down a little bit, they start to doze back to sleep, because who wants to wake up at 6 a.m.? They go back into alpha, and then they can go back down into theta and delta. And then if the parents are like my dad, they'll come in the room and say, get up, in which case the child goes back into full awakening consciousness, which is beta. Now they may get on a school bus, let's say, and maybe it's just a normal day and they're just riding on a bus and they'll go back down to alpha. And they'll get to school and they'll see their friends, they'll be back in beta, full awakening consciousness. They'll get into their desk and maybe it's not the most exciting day at school, they'll go back down to alpha. Anytime they're in alpha or lower, they're in hypnosis. So this child hasn't even really begun his or her day yet at school. They've just gotten to the desk. They've already been in hypnosis several times. The only difference between that and what's on a hypnosis recording are two things. Number one, the hypnotist is causing the person to go into hypnosis by using relaxing words as opposed to letting it happen naturally. And number two, positive suggestions are being put in their minds while they're there, as opposed to whatever they're seeing on TV or whatever the teacher may be saying or whatever they may be hearing on the school bus. Positive suggestions are going to their mind. They're going to help them.
Excellent explanation, because for me it's very important that the parents don't have misconceptions of what hypnosis is, because it's a natural state. It's something we do every single day, and it's not hard to hypnotize nobody. It's to dehypnotize them, because they're running in the wrong hypnosis, in the wrong fears. It's important for me to now go to the special offer from Dr. Steve G. John. All the athletes, all the coaches, everybody who is listening right now, go to that page. You need to type www.sportperformanceseekers.com/hypnosis. You will see right there Dr. Steve G. John's picture inside, and check everyone. Click in the special offer. You can read every one of the programs you will have with you. Give yourself the opportunity to integrate that into your life. I know you are a very disciplined person because you do sports, but everybody around you need to the help from you too, because you need to teach everybody to be disciplined like you are. And now, in this special interview, what hypnosis is, number two, how the mind works, and number three, you have special tools to face that concept to perform better. Now, I have people calling, and because we have a comments bar, and a lot of people use it. If you have any questions, all the kids, all the questions, anything what you want, send us. We want to be communicating with you because we want you to be part of this program. Some questions here. So she says, "Do it's possible to change bad old habits?"
To change back old habits?
Yes, bad old habits. Like
bad old habits. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, to get rid of old habits that you don't want, that you consider ineffective and slowing you down. Would that be the gist of it?
And
okay, absolutely, and that's what we've been talking about during the interview here. It's absolutely possible, because the mind is something that you can take control of. You have been perhaps going through life, on autopilot, just responding to the environment, but you can absolutely take charge of it. So by doing things such as anchoring, positive affirmations can help also. Hypnosis programs like the ones we're talking about that I have, that we're talking about today, those are all designed to change what we might be calling bad habits. I don't like the words good or bad per se, but effective and ineffective habits that are working for us and habits that aren't working for us. That's my definition of good or bad. If it's working for you, great. If it's not, then you need to change it, and it's absolutely possible.
Excellent. Yes, some habits are in your favor, some ones not. And then we need to change the ones who don't serve you anymore. And now we have another question. It's from Pilar from New Mexico. For how many days do I need to use the recordings?
Well, if you just got one recording, you'd use it for 21 nights in a row. But today, what we're talking about is 15 recordings. So what I would do again is break them into groups of three that make sense for you, things that seem to be categories that you want to work on. You can have 5 categories of 3 recordings. So first 3 listen to for 21 nights or 3 weeks. The first 3. The second 3 listen to for 3 weeks also. So you've got 5 of those 3-week segments, so you've got 15 weeks of programming. The great news is that you're going to have positive changes happening all the time, and all kinds of different positive changes happening. So get ready for a revolutionary change in your life.
Now I need to tell everybody to go to the special offer page. It's important for you to go over there because we have something special for you. Number one, we have all the 15 recordings, and you need to check, read it a little bit, integrate that to you, and it's 90% discount. In the right side, you have the add to the cart. You need to add to the cart, and then you will get all those benefits for that. It's important for you to experience all what you have in these recordings. It's 15 recordings, like Dr. Steve G. Jones says, 3 at a time for 21 days. That will help you to really rewire your mind. And it's 90%. This is a special offer. This is super special because usually what you pay for one, everybody will pay. In this interview, you will pay for 15. That will help you a lot to do you perform better. We're running out of time. We have that special gift for you. That is special for you. That gift is important to read faster. If you go to the doctor product, back to the card, and you will see at the bottom, it's asks you for your name and your email address. As soon as you see right there, Dr. Gift, click right there, send it, and you will see, you will receive in a minute your recording for reading faster. You can read and you can comprehend better. I'm so excited that we make an amazing day today to all the knowledge Dr. Steve G. Jones has. And I recommend to you, my athletes, all the coaches, to give you the opportunity to the sun and keep working, because the world needs you. The world needs your motivation to keep going in this world. We have a lot of things. Dr. Steve G. Jones, I'm so happy that you give us all those advices. You always have amazing ideas, and I'm very glad you was with us. Any final words you can say to all our audience and all these kids?
Well, you know, there's an older song by the group America, and it goes like this. It's about the Wizard of Oz, and it says, Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. And what that's saying is, you know, the Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz already had what he needed, but the Wizard of Oz gave him a physical representation of that so that he could really feel it. It's sort of that way with hypnosis. We're not giving you, through hypnosis, anything you don't already have. We're just helping you reach in and pull it out of yourself. So sometimes you need that little motivation to see how awesome and amazing and beautiful and wonderful and powerful and talented you are. That's where hypnosis comes into play and really makes a huge difference in your life.
Wow, what amazing words. Now you know everything what you will uncover with these recordings and with these things, you already have it inside. Just you need to take the action, and this action start with the click to the button, add to the cart button, and get that 90% discount. And I want to finish with one quote for Albert Einstein, who says, learning is experience, and everything else is just information. I hear from you too, in all your clinics and all the courses you teach, you says everything needs to be experiential. it's not just information. You need to experience that. And thank you so much for all your help, for all your knowledge. And I hope we can have more interviews like that with you, because it's amazing. And thank you so much, Dr. Steve G. Jones. I'm so glad that you was here with us. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Coach Al. Thanks for making this possible.
And to all our audience, I know you get a lot of information. Start to integrate now and start to do the actions you need to take in order to be a super athlete and a superhuman. We need you this every day, and you need to be part of that. We're proud of you, and keep working. Thank you, Dr. Steve, and thank you to everybody to listen.